Assalamu alaikum. Today we're getting on with creditors, and we're doing cash payments to creditors and a discount received. So when our creditor sends us a statement, right, sometimes they send you a statement at the end of the month, sometimes after 2 weeks. It depends on the creditor. So the creditor is somebody, it's a liability. Okay, remember, a creditor is a liability and we owe them money. So it's a transaction where we went and bought something, or we got some service done for us and we haven't paid it, and we receive an invoice from them. And then so during the month, if you went to a shop 3 times, you would get 3 invoices from them. Okay, so number 1, number 2, number 3, and say, for example, if this was 200, 300 and 400, it would add up and add up and add up. So what would happen is, at the end of the month, they would send you a statement with all your invoice numbers and calculate it and show you how much of money you're owing them at the end of the month. I've just used the easy example here of 500 Rand so that we can understand the process first, right? So then they're telling you that you're getting a 10% discount when you settle your invoice. So this is not the same thing when you see the question on trade discount, right? So when those transactions come up, you work out the trade discount on that invoice, and then we're paying the invoice according to that. Now this is where they offer you a 10% discount on settlement of your account, right? So we'll see the transactions just now. So this statement is saying that at the end of a specific month, I'm owing 500 Rand to this creditor, and they're going to give me a 10% discount. So my first step is to work out my discount. So I'm saying 500 Rand times 10%. My discount will be 50 Rand. So this is called discount received, right? Remember, with debtors, we're doing all the time discount allowed, where we're giving the debtor a discount for settlement of their account. Now we're receiving the discount. We're the ones who are getting the discount. So we're receiving a discount, and this is recorded as an income. So discount received works as an income. So it has a credit balance. So now if we move on, so we take the 500 Rand, which is the amount on the statement. We're minusing the 50 Rand to get to 450 Rand. So what is this telling me? That 50 Rand will be my discount received, which goes into my cash payments journal. All right, we'll see now how we put in the transactions. And 450 Rand is the amount that I will pay, right? So this will be the amount. Either I'm going to pay by check, or by EFT, or by direct deposit. Sometimes you go and deposit it, go to the bank and you do a deposit. Nowadays, most of the time we do EFTs from our computer using the internet, or we send them a check. So all those kind of things are relating to the CPJ. So when you're seeing those transactions, you know you are paying your creditor. So when you're paying your creditor, the amount paid will be the amount after the discount. This money is not going to be going to the creditor. This is the amount that goes to the creditor. So although his books are saying 500 Rand there for the statement, he'll receive 450 Rand. And remember, in his books, with the debtor, so then he'll record 450 and he'll put discount allowed. Now on our side, we're only paying 450 Rand, but we have to account for that 500 Rand. So the 50 Rand will go in as an income as discount received. So let's see in the transactions, right? So what is happening here is that we have a statement where our creditors control, we are owing 500 Rand. So our balance here is 500 Rand on the credit side. Now I'm going to pay my creditor 450 Rand, and I'm going to get 50 Rand discount. So the transactions for that is, I would credit my bank with the 450 Rand. So that's the amount you're going to see on the check, on the EFT, or on the direct deposit. Then I'm going to credit my discount received with 50 Rand, and I'm going to debit my creditors control with 500 Rand. So then this account gets closed off. So I've accounted for that 500 Rand. So this is a liability. My liability increases on the credit side. My liability now is decreasing because I'm getting rid of that 500 Rand that I was owing. But how did I get rid of it in my books, right? There's 2 transactions there. So the bank I've paid from my bank 450 Rand, and I've put into discount received 50 Rand. So when we do the proper ledger account, you'll see two transactions there. So we've debited our creditors control account with 450 Rand with the payment part of it. We credited our bank with 450 Rand. Then we debited our creditors control with the discount received, which is 50 Rand, and we credit our discount received with 50 Rand. Okay, so when we do the totals, it will be much simpler. So all you need to concentrate here is that, let me write it like this here for you, so as a transaction. So what we're saying is we're debiting our creditors control with 500, right? Because I've cancelled it off there. I've debited my creditors control. I've paid my creditor, so my liability is decreasing. We're debiting the liability. What have I credited? I've credited my bank with 450, and I've credited my discount received with the 50 Rand. Okay, so it's a very important part. If there was no discount received, we would just pay 500 Rand. So we debit the creditors control account with 500 Rand and would credit the bank with 500 Rand. But now there's a discount received, so our check has to only show 450, so the other 50 Rand goes in as discount received, right? Now we need to go through these transactions on page 140. So let's look at these transactions first before we do the totals. Okay, so we are on page 139 of your textbook, and if we read through this question here, it's the same example that we are following, but now they've added in payments to the creditor, right? So just ignore this number 1 for now. We're going to do the accounting equation separately, right? We have to prepare the following in the books of Sonia, right? So the creditors journal, the creditors allowance journal, and now this is where we come and we see that we have to prepare a CPJ because we've paid the creditor, right? Provide the following additional columns in the creditors journal and creditors allowance journal. So they're telling you what columns to put in. Post the following accounts in the general ledger. So they're telling us here's your opening balances. So you only need to do the creditors control account and the discount received account, right? It's very important to read your question because it's based a lot on time. So you have to see which ledger accounts they are asking you to do. So they have asked you to do the creditors control account and a discount received account. These are your opening balances. So that means we are working for January. On the 1st of January, these will be your balances that have to go into your ledger, right? Post to the creditors ledger and then extract the creditors list. And always when you see a creditors list, you must remember that those two balances should be the same. Okay, so now here's your information for your creditors list on the 31st of December. So what would this mean here? In my creditors ledger, this would be my opening balances on my 1st of January, which means I owed Sparky and Company invoices from the previous months, and Mako Supplies 31560 from the previous months, and Alco Services from the previous months. And now these are the ones that I am going to have to take these transactions into account for January, right? So let's follow the first transaction. The first one, I've circled the ones that we're going to do because the others are exactly the same as we've done in the other videos, which is the creditors journal and the creditors allowance journal, right? So the first one says, paid Mako Supplies by check 14,000 Rand and discount received 700 Rand. So very important to note, the check is telling you, what is it telling you, and what is paid telling you. That's two words telling you that you need to go towards your CPJ and you've paid your creditor, right? So now we have to put this into the CPJ and we have to see what has happened to the creditor. So let's move on to page 140. Okay, so on page 140, if we see here your document number, right? Your document number is C92. On the 5th, we paid Mako Supplies. So you can see that's cash payments journal for January. Okay, we'll worry about the folios just now. The bank, we've paid 14,000 Rand, right? And you'll see creditors control is split up into payments and discount received. Okay, don't worry about this alternative format here, just follow the first format, right? So we're paying 14,000 Rand from the bank. So this means your check will be made up of 14,000 Rand. That's why bank has the 14,000 Rand, and your discount received will be 700 Rand. Okay, can you see? You have to put it into two columns. Now let's look at the next payment. So the next payment, let's just read through these transactions and see which journal they're going in, right? So on the 9th, I bought merchandise on credit from Sparky for 400 Rand, and I have an invoice. Okay, you can see this is going in your creditors journal. The invoice is telling you to go there, and you can see you've bought on credit. On the 10th, Sonia's cafe complained to Sparky that the trade discount was not deducted on the invoice, sent them a debit note. So the debit note is telling you where to go, the complaint is telling you where to go, and you can see that the discount was not deducted, so we're going to go to the creditors allowance journal. And we've done these transactions in the previous video, right? Now on the 12th is the one we need to see today. Settle the account amount owing to Sparky on the 1st of January, less 7.5% discount. This payment was made by electronic transfer. So very important information here. Where am I going? Settled my account. What did I do? I've paid. So I'm going to my CPJ. Okay, but the amount is not given to me. It's telling me on the 1st of January. So I need to go back to my opening balance. And here's the amount that I'm owing on the 1st of January. So if I go to that amount there, I haven't paid them 16,480. How much did I pay them? Less 7.5% discount. So I've got 16,480 multiplied by 7.5%. 1,236 will become my discount amount, right? And then let's go to the CPJ here. So the CPJ, you can see on the 12th, we're using our bank statement on the 12th, and on the from the bank, can you see my discount received amount is 1,236, right? And I have to minus it from that. What was the amount there? 16,480. 16,480. So I've actually paid 15,244. Can you see this transaction here? I've only paid them from my bank 15,244. So 15,244 goes into my payments, and my discount received is 1,236, which is the 7.5%. So if I add those two together, then 15,244 plus 1,236, it will give me the total amount that I owed them, right? The total amount I owed them in the beginning of the month was 16,480, but they let me have a discount of 1,236. But you can see we're only going to make a check or a direct EFT for 15,244. So that's the second payment there. The next one says, receive the following order on credit from Mako Supplies, and there's your invoice. So you've got two transactions, and you're going to go and put it into your creditors journal. Return 150 Rands worth of stationery to Mako Supplies as it was unsuitable. So you can see there's a complaint, and you returned it, and you issued a debit note. So where we're going to do, it's all negative. We're going to go into the creditors allowance journal. Alco Services undertook repairs to refrigerators for Sonia for 190 Rand. Received a credit invoice from them. There's your invoice number. So what is it telling me? I've got repairs, but I took it on credit. I didn't pay for it. I have to go to my creditors journal. Now the 30th, there's two transactions here on the 30th. Paid the 910 owing from the previous months to Alco Supplies. Check number 93. So I've made a payment. Okay, that's telling me I've paid. And there's my check number. So I need to go to my CPJ. So that's another payment made there. Right, so my payment is, I've made a payment to Mako Supplies on the 30th. Remember, we don't write the date if we're repeating. And then how much did I pay? Sorry, we're here at C93 on the 30th. We paid Alco 910 Rands. There was no discount involved in this transaction, so we just paid 910 Rands, right? So that's in your cash payments journal. That was an easy one. Now, this is the one where you need to do a little bit of working out. So settle the amount owing to Macro suppliers less 10% discount. See here, less 10% discount, right? This payment was made electronically. So they haven't given us the amount that we are paying, the amount owing to Macro suppliers. So what it means is that you need to start from the opening balance, right, which is 31,560. You have to go through all the transactions for Macro, and then the balance that is outstanding, then you paid that balance less 10%. So let's go to the creditors ledger and do that one together. Then the other two you can follow it on your own, right? So what has happened is we've done this before, so I'm concentrating on the discount part of it. Okay, can you see clearly there? Right, okay, so here we have Sonia's Cafe, the creditors ledger, right? So the creditors ledger is saying, here's Macro supplies, right? So on the 20th of January, on the 1st, their balance brought down was 31,560. You remember that opening balance? So there's the opening balance of 31,560. We're on page 142 now, right? On the 5th, we paid them 14,000 Rand. Can you see now? I'm debiting. So when I'm minusing my creditor, I debit them. When I buy from my creditor and I'm owing them money, I credit them, right? So that's very important to understand the plus and the minus, because this is working as a liability. So it increases on the credit side, it decreases on the debit side. So 31,560. If you go back to the transactions, on the 5th, we paid them 14,000 Rand. And we got a discount of 700 Rand. So the amount in the CPJ, there's those two amounts in the CPJ. We've done that transaction, 14,000, and we're debiting the creditor with the discount as well, so that we're cancelling that full amount off there. So we've paid them. So as to show, we've paid 14,700 Rand, but your check amount will be that and your discount amount will be that. Now look on the 15th, you'll go to your CJ1, your creditors journal. We bought from the invoice B2 2,000 Rand. So we credit the creditor, which means his account is going to go higher. You can see you've added that 2,000 to the 16. Now we owe them 18,860, right? If you look there, it went lower from 31 because we paid them. Now it's going higher because we're owing them more money. Then on the 17th, remember now we return something. So 150 Rand has to go off their account because we sent the goods back and now we don't owe them at 150 Rand anymore, so the balance will go down. You'll take that and minus that and come to that total there. Right now, this is where the 30th, where the payment comes in. So the important part is to look there before we do the payment, is what is the balance owing, because the transaction is telling us that we settled it less. How much was it? 10% discount, right? So 18,710 is the amount that I'm owing. Okay, I've got 18,710. I have to calculate my 10% discount. My discount amount would be 1871. And how much did I actually pay would be minus the 18,710, which is 16,839, right? So I will put in, it's an electronic transfer from in the CPJ, same like what we did there. My amount from my CPJ would be, let's just go back here to see how it looks. 1871 would be the discount received, and my payments amount which going out of my bank would be 16,839. So that transaction would go into my CPJ. So I've paid my creditor the balance. So can you see there, I've paid from the bank 16,839. This is electronic transfer, so it's telling you that your bank is getting credited and your creditor is getting debited there. So I minus that amount, I'm left with 1871, and that was the discount received. Right, so that's my discount received, and eventually that's how I've settled my account. Okay, so we've been through all the transactions of creditors. Today was the last part of it where we're doing the payments. Then we're going to do one question on the accounting equation to see if you understood all the T accounts. So what you need to remember is that it's a liability, and then you need to know that it increases on the credit side and it decreases on the debit side, and understand today's transactions, right? So there's one more thing that I just want to revise with you now.